And if
Good afternoon, Zinger Nation. My name is Logan Ross, and this is Moon or Bust, your home for all things altcoins and DeFi. We have got a great show great show for you today. We will be talking to crypto Twitter influencer Trader Mayne about crypto culture, about DeFi, about where he thinks the markets are going, and we're going to get his thoughts on all of that and more. So clear your schedule, get your snacks, and get ready for a great episode of Moon or Bust. I am co-hosted today by Ryan McNamara and Brian Moir. How are you guys doing?
Good. Excited.
Yeah, I can tell you sound like it.
It's just kind of hectic, but we got this. It's great.
We got it going. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to welcome to Moon or Bust Trader Mayne. How are you doing today?
Hey guys, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us. It's really our pleasure to have you on. Hey, welcome back from vacation. I hope you had a good birthday. For anyone out there who hasn't heard of you before, could you give us a little bit about your background in trading and in crypto?
Sure. So, I go by Trader Mayne. You can just call me Mayne. I've been pretty active on crypto Twitter since 2014. So a couple bull runs ago now, I guess, for Bitcoin. Kind of, wet my teeth in trading and investing in Bitcoin in general in that 2013-14 run. Had no idea what I was doing, lost all of my money. But that was kind of the impetus for me to want to actually learn how to analyze markets and figure out, what actually makes this thing move, as opposed to just, the hype and the boom cycles. Like, can I actually, time these things and actually make educated bets? So I decided to teach myself to trade. So I got really into kind of like price action trading through Forex, played around with options and stocks and things like that. And then by the time the 2017 cycle came around, I did pretty well. And then this last one, obviously, did very well as well. And the rest is history. Kind of been posting along the way on Twitter, on YouTube and Discord. And it's been a lot of fun.
There we go. So Bitcoin just closed a weekly candle below 31K. What do you think this means for, maybe the next 2 weeks?
More than anything, I think the play right now is just to kind of bet on volatility for Bitcoin. Direction is kind of difficult. Could this thing break to the upside? Possibly, but there's nothing really telling me that people want to buy in and step in at this level. Usually when bottoms form, you don't get 6 or 7 attempts to buy the bottom, which is kind of around 30K. This is kind of the 6th or 7th time we've come down here with weaker bounces every time. My bias is towards a break to the downside. Obviously, I'm prepared for either situation, but more than anything, I think August, I wouldn't be surprised if August, September, we start seeing some volatility return to the market.
Yeah, definitely. I'm also biased towards the downside. So say it does go there. Where are you placing your buy orders for BTC and ETH?
So everyone can front run me. I'm thinking I would not be surprised at all. I would be very surprised if we don't hit at least like the mid 20s, 24, 25K. But, unfortunately, and it's scary to think, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we, hit the old all-time high around 20K and possibly even lower. I mean, if you just look at Bitcoin's market cycles, kind of cyclically, every time we've had an all-time high, price usually drops about 85 to 90% before it makes that cycle low. And then it will, accumulate and then eventually a few years later start a rally. So 85% off of 64,000, that puts us into like 15K, even less. So it's scary to think about for sure, especially if you bought in the last like 3 or 4 months. But when you zoom out, which I think a lot of people don't do when they're trading crypto, because they're kind of, I think we're very blessed with how fast the market moves in crypto. And we have these boom and bust cycles in like a 2-year span where it could take 20 years for other markets to kind of go through an entire market cycle. But, as long as those cycle lows are consistently higher, if you're patient and you're an investor, it's kind of hard to mess it up. I mean, if you're a trader and you're got into the game really late, it sucks if you bought at 50, 60K, it might be a while before we get back up there. But, even if you bought the all-time high in 2017, within 2 years, you were back in the green. So I wouldn't be surprised if we go back below that all-time high. Same with Ethereum, under $1,000. I wouldn't be surprised, but obviously prepared for anything. If the market shows me some reason to get bullish, maybe some country wants to, add Bitcoin to their balance sheet or make it their reserve currency, similar to El Salvador, that would be sweet, and that'd make me, want to get back on.
There we go.
So what cryptocurrencies do you most often trade? And like, why? Are there any specific things you look for in cryptos?
Sure. So, I mean, primarily from like a day trading perspective, because I do actively trade every day. I mean, it's been a little bit dry these last 2 months. We've been in a pretty tight range. So, I mean, which to be honest with you is kind of my forte coming from Forex, eking out 0.5%, 1% moves in a range. That's your bread and butter. Whereas crypto, for the last year up until recently, it was like all you had to do was press the green button and wait like 3 days, and then you were basically making money. So that's obviously a more fun environment, but I have no issues trading these types of ranging environments. I really enjoy trading Bitcoin and Ethereum primarily. I find that they trade the cleanest in terms of how I trade, and then just the volume and the ability to get, correct fills with decent size on the exchanges that I use. Those are going to be my kind of two primary go-tos. Altcoins are a very dangerous game. Because I've been around long enough that I remember, and I believe in DeFi 100%. I think there's a huge amount of use cases for DeFi, and there will be a lot of these staple DeFi projects that stick around and last, and it will change the finance industry because it's just a better mousetrap. Yep. But the issue is Bitcoin is still kind of the king of the market. So when Bitcoin is rolling, everything rolls even harder. So you have to be very careful playing the altcoin musical chairs game because, you do get those kind of higher beta returns on the upside, but the inverse is true as well. When Bitcoin starts to roll, a lot of these altcoins get just absolutely smoked. Doesn't matter how good the fundamentals are, who the team is, as much as I wanted to. I got caught up in that trap a little bit in 2017 with some of these ICOs where it's like, oh shit, like this is the real deal. And in hindsight, some of them I would have made money on if I just held it all the way through this cycle. But the problem is when you buy something near the top and you've got to hold it through a 90% drawdown that might last 3 years, it's painful and it's hard to bag hold. So I do have some altcoins that I'm watching and I'm looking to buy, hopefully when I think things are bottoming out. But that's kind of my barometer. I wait until Bitcoin looks bullish. And then I also pay attention to the altcoin versus Bitcoin chart. I think that's something a lot of traders don't understand in crypto, is that you need to chart your altcoin not just against the dollar, but against Bitcoin as well. Yep. Because if that chart is in a downtrend, your money is better off in Bitcoin. Like you can believe in the project all you want, but if your altcoin BTC chart is going down, you're in the wrong asset. So I try and approach things very technically from when I get involved, but from like a fundamental perspective, like I really like coins like Rune. I really like Link. Obviously, I think Ethereum is definitely going to be the major play for me this next run, as opposed to going super heavy on Bitcoin, because the returns on Bitcoin are kind of gradually getting less and less. I mean, it did a 20x from the bottom, which is amazing, right? 3K to 60K, but like Ethereum did something like an 80. And that just is the nature of the beast, right? The market cap is so high, Bitcoin is so expensive. To move the needle the same amount each cycle, it just takes more and more dough. So I think your best bet, if you're trying to say, okay, where do I want to put my money? Find the ecosystems that you like, whether that's Polkadot, whether that's Cosmos. Find the ecosystem that you like and then make a few strategic bets within that ecosystem, because the market is extremely correlated. So, investing in 50 altcoins is not diversification, right? You're really kind of just spreading your risk against very like assets. So that would be kind of my advice, not financial.
That's great advice. I mean, that's kind of how I do it. So I mean, you couldn't have said it better. That's awesome.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So on the topic of day trading, what type of trading indicators do you use and what type of strategies do you use for crypto trading?
So I'm primarily a price action based trader. So supply and demand, whatever you want to call it. So generally I'm just using the candlestick chart and then horizontal support and resistance. I've gone through, as I'm sure most traders do, kind of an evolution of things that I've tried. First, I was using moving average strategies. And then I got involved with, RSI and MACD and looking for things to be, overbought, oversold. And what I found worked best for me was price action, simply because of its simplicity. It was very clean, legible. Some people's charts look like they just threw like a bunch of crayons at it, and you're like, what the heck's going on here? So I like how simple it is. It kind of vibes with my OCD a little bit, where my charts are always very clean and tidy. And I think that's something that every trader kind of needs to figure out, right? Like, I think a mistake a lot of people make is they see the newest flavor of the month on Twitter or whatever and be like, oh, what's that new indicator? I need to try that. You need to find something that speaks to you, and then you need to put in the time, right? Like, it's no different than a sport. You can't change your jump shot halfway through the season and expect the same results, right? You've got to have that repetition in your style, and figure out what kind of speaks to you. I don't think there's anything wrong with indicators, but most indicators just display price and volume, just in a different way. And if that way is easier for you to understand, then absolutely. I don't need the Bollinger Bands to know when price is contracting. I've kind of just built an eye where I can see it. So I would suggest to people, try out different things, figure out what makes sense to you, but then stick with it. Try not to, switch it up every month because someone shows you a new indicator, because you do need that repetition. Like, there's no joke. Like, you need the thousands of hours of seeing the same thing over and over again to really get to click. So yeah, I use supply and demand essentially, and price action is kind of my bread and butter.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I totally agree with you too. The simpler, the better, with a bunch of lines on a chart, it can get confusing, and a lot of that stuff really doesn't say much at the end of the day. I had another similar question for you.
Sure.
So compared to stocks and Forex, do you find that it's easier or harder to trade crypto?
I get this question a lot. I love trading gold. Gold is probably my favorite asset to trade in terms of how and I don't know if it's just from years of doing it, where I know when the market is volatile. The stuff that I do, the TA that I do on it just seems to trade really clean. But I would say this, I'd say in a bull run, there's no better asset to trade than crypto. You are not going to see this type of volatility anywhere else, at least in my experience. I mean, maybe if you're really, really slick with options, you can start getting those crazy returns. You can get some options where if you know what you're doing, you're getting 400%, 500%, 1,000% gains. But crypto, there's usually about a 12 to 18 month period where almost doing nothing, you could do a 10x if you just kind of bought early and were in the right stuff. And even if you were in the wrong stuff, it's still probably going to do a 5x. So in the bull run, it's pretty straightforward, right? You long support, and then you hold for price discovery. And then as soon as it looks like it's, turning, you wait for it to retest the level. And it's so clean. Like, if you look at the Bitcoin daily chart from the COVID crash last year, it never broke daily market structure for a year straight. So you effectively just had to wait, right? Be patient. Every time the daily came back and retested where you're like, oh, is this it? That's where you buy, and then it would run again. So the problem with crypto, especially during the bull run as well, it's kind of, the evil part of it is you don't get a lot of sleep. It's a 24/7 market. There is no off, right? So, depending on where you live, the market might move in the middle of the night. It's going to move on the weekend. It's going to move on bank holidays. So there is like a stress level that comes with it, because you get this FOMO where you're like, oh man, I longed this coin and it went up 20%, but this coin went up 60%. Like, I need to, be paying more attention. So there's definitely like a little bit of that, which is very hard. And that's something that I love about stocks and about Forex is, when the market is volatile, right? I'm on the West Coast, 6 a.m. This is why I need to be in front of my screen, locked in. I've got a few hours to pay attention here. And by 1 p.m., my day is done. And the other benefit is your account is cash based, right? Usually in a crypto bull run, you're going to be holding Bitcoin. And then if you're day trading, you're going to be using Bitcoin as collateral. So you can wake up one day and your account can be 30% down in USD terms, Whereas, if you want to take a week off from stocks, a week off from Forex, whatever dollar amount your account is going to be there when you come back. So, I mean, I think there's a little bit of everything. I think coming from Forex, I still appreciate it. But I think people coming from crypto, trying to go to traditional markets, are going to have a hard time because they don't really understand. They're like, oh, well, this only moved 2%. And I'm like, well, in currencies, 2% is huge. But it'll take some time. But I would say I prefer trading gold just overall, but then crypto in the bull run, kind of hard to beat.
Nice. Okay, so zooming out a little bit, this market cycle in general, we've seen double peak market cycles almost every time so far, and we've seen a first peak happen in May. Do you think that was the end of this market cycle, or do you think that it's going to continue, maybe over the next 12 months?
So the dream scenario is this is kind of a fractal of that 2013, double bubble that we had, right? Where it was, and funnily enough, the timing really worked out the same as well. As in the spring, we had a big move up, and then we crashed about 80%, and then we went sideways for the summer. And then in October, we had another run, and that was, I believe, in 2013, that took us to like 1,200, and then we had the bear market.
Right.
I would love that. I would absolutely love for that to happen. I think the problem is, or the risk is, that even if that's going to happen in that last double bubble, we still had like a 70 or 80% decline off the all-time high, and we're not there yet. But yeah, I would like to say, yes, I think that's going to happen, but I do think we're going to have to see some sort of flush. And it's got to be, I don't really think we've seen capitulation yet on this dump. Like, yes, it was a big drop, but a lot of these altcoins can drop another 50, 60, 70% very easily. So I think a move like that could really mess people up. And I think that would be the type of move that we want to see if we're going to have some sort of run to, 100K. So the double bubble idea, I think, is still alive. Absolutely. We could, kind of mess around between 20 and 30K for the rest of the summer into the fall, and then hopefully run again. But it's going to take a lot of money to get this market back to 60K and above. And the question is where does that money come from? Who's going to be buying? I don't know if there's any interest, at least at these levels, for, some big money to come in yet. So maybe it will take one of those events where we see a big crash and you see that, large transaction of money for Bitcoin happen like we did during COVID. So is it possible? Yes. But right now I'm assuming we're at least in a mini bear market or some sort of, it's very hard to say we're off 50% from the high and this is not bearish. And I just play level, right? If we get back above 40K, let's target 50. If we get below 30 and stay down there, let's target 25 and 20.
Nice. There we go. So we've seen diminishing returns and lengthening market cycles continually repeat themselves. So if this market cycle, it has diminishing returns so far, if it does continue to lengthen, then, my guess is at least we'll probably be in this semi-bearish market for 2 or 3 more months, maybe start to rebuild towards the end of the year, get somewhere near the previous all-time highs by the end of the year, and then in the first half of 2022 is really when the institutions will have the clearance to start moving in. And I saw Michael Saylor say like a week or two ago that it takes like 6 to 12 months for these institutional investors and these companies to add crypto to their balance sheets. So if we really want to see the institutional cycle like this has sort of kind of been so far, it's going to take some time for that to happen. And that might just line up with that lengthening cycle. So definitely we'll keep our eyes peeled for that. Sure. All right, Ryan, you got the next question?
Yeah, so Mayne, I got to know, with the markets appreciating so fast over this past year, like well over 100%, have you been able to actually beat the markets by trading?
So great question. Barely. So I like to actively trade. Like, this is what I do full time. But it is very hard to do a 20x trading. And that's what I tell 99% of the people who ask me about day trading and about, wanting to trade altcoins and all this stuff. I was like, listen, you need to have a serious conversation with yourself. You need to look at your portfolio and you need to say, okay, did I do better than a 20x? And what I find is most people, the answer is no. Most people, it's not even close. So you can make money and have underperformed the market as a whole. I mean, obviously that means you bought near the bottom, sold near the top, which is not easy to do. But even if you caught, let's say you bought at 6K instead of at 3K and you sold at, 60K instead of the absolute peak, it's still a 10X, right? So I find that traders oftentimes are going to underperform in the holder in the heat of the bull run. Where I seem to make my bread and kind of make up the difference is the in-between period. So the topping pattern I did very well in, where the market was kind of between 50 and 60K for like 3 months. And it turns out that was just kind of a massive distribution schematic. But I did very well trading long and short within that range. And then I've done very well selling, shorting with leverage on the way down. But absolutely, if I would have just went all in on Ethereum and just held my initial Ethereum buys to like even 4,000, I probably would have made more money. And I probably would have had more free time and spent less time staring at my computer. But I think that's kind of, part of the beast of trading is it's very hard to outperform these markets in the bull run. I think there's like you have to make the delineation. Like, yes, holding can be good. And I think it's best for most people. But does that mean you're also still holding, or did you sell at 60K? Like, how do you know when to get out, right? But I think most people who bought in sub 10K and sold above 50K, you crushed it. I think that's pretty awesome.
So do you have any cryptocurrency positions that you just hold and don't trade?
So I always have cold storage, Bitcoin and Ethereum that I just don't touch. This is like my suicide bag. Where I'm prepared to, hold that to the ground. I will kind of systematically hedge for that exposure. So when I saw us break down from that kind of 3-month topping formation, I opened up a lot of low leverage shorts to kind of counteract a bit of my cold storage. It's not a one-to-one hedge by any means. But at least to kind of capture some of that downside. Because I mean, at the end of the day, you don't want to eat, a 50, 60% drawdown if you don't have to. I'm always going to own some Bitcoin and some Ethereum. In a bull run, generally, I like to base my profitability and my wealth and all that stuff on Bitcoin. How can I accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible? And then in the bear market, you want to stack dollars, because that gives you the ability to have, that dry powder to load back up when you think things are bottoming out. I'm always going to own some Bitcoin. I'm always going to own some Ethereum. So that's all locked away. You're not really part of the community unless you do, right?
For sure. So do you do any yield farming with the cryptocurrency positions that you don't trade?
So I have a little bit of experience yield farming. So I'm like a boomer in crypto terms. I'm 31 now. So I've got a bunch of like 20-year-olds in Discords who are making millions of percentage APY. And they're trying to explain it to me. And I'm like, well, why can't I just log Litecoin? So I was a little bit late to the DeFi party. There's parts of it that I'm like, okay, this is sweet. And like I've messed around with a few farms. Right now I am using a couple like USDC based farms, so I can actually be in, effectively US dollars, but still have the ability to earn like some interest. But during the bull run, when things were going crazy, I messed around with a few. The thing that always kind of worried me is like, okay, well, I have to, for the most part, put my trust in this token. Right? If I want to get this crazy yield, I'm putting my trust in this specific token, which, as we've seen a lot, there's been rug pulls, there's been crashes, even Mark Cuban got rug pulled, right? So, if Mark Cuban's getting rug pulled, what are my chances? So I luckily haven't been rugged, but I've messed around with a few. I'll be completely honest, I don't fully understand how it's possible or sustainable in some of these farms to be kicking off this kind of yield. So I kind of treat it as like, get while the getting's good. And then if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So, don't trust it for too long. I don't know. I'd love to hear your guys' take.
Yeah, I definitely stay away from I definitely stay away from those high APY farms. When you get up to the hundreds of percents or even thousands of percents, like 99% of the time, it's too good to be true. And like you said, you're putting your trust into these random altcoins, which I'll never do, right? You have these random altcoins that could be rug pulls, that could go down. Like, even if you're making 500%, I understand why some people do it. Like, they'll stay in it for a day, and if you can make 10% in a day, like that's great. But most people don't, and like most people will end up just losing money on these altcoins, because the way I find most of these altcoins work is they'll just be printing off more cryptocurrency, right? And people will be selling it on the market, and whatever altcoin it is going down. So like, yeah, you're staking, you're earning a high yield, but your actual position size is going down with the altcoin you're holding.
Yeah. No, I find it's the exact same way. I mean, I had one where I went quite heavy into it, and I was earning like 33%, APY. So it wasn't insane. And then the token was also appreciating. So I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, I'm winning twice. But then when Bitcoin crashed, the token crashed, the APYs tanked, and I'm like, okay, now I'm stuck with a bunch of this token that is useless, and all that APY that I had farmed and all those extra tokens I had been paid don't even make up for the fact that the token value is now 60% less than it was, 3 weeks ago. So I do think there's going to be some very interesting applications with this kind of DeFi protocols and yield farming and things of that nature. I just think we're seeing the first iteration, right? So generally usually there's going to be newer, better, safer iterations, and that's super exciting, obviously.
Well, like Ryan said, it's important to figure out where the interest is coming from, because if they're just issuing new coins, then obviously it's going to deflate. Farm tokens like that are good for maybe a week if you're the first one in it, but it's good to find out where the interest is coming from. So that's why I typically choose platforms like Aave or Uniswap to earn passive income on my tokens. I know it's coming from trading fees or from lending.
One thing to think about too is with some of these new DeFi pools, especially like the pool tokens, where you put in your money, your whatever crypto you're pooling, and then you get out the LP or you get out their like whatever minting tokens. A lot of times there's a bunch of bots that will inflate the price, and then they will sell, and then you get, it looks great, it's awesome, you're getting 1,000% APY, but then they sell real fast, and it's all happening just so quickly. Or they have a lock on it. And now contracts have like built-in protection from that. But just like anything else, there's people that can beat that protection. That's why I don't really mess around with like pools that you don't know, because all the UIs always looks like a fork of Pancake Swap or anything else, or Uniswap, because it's all forks of that. But most of the time it's bots, and it's pretty sketchy. It's really hard because you can easily get rugged. Look at Pancake Bunny or any of those other ones, but most of the time there's no way to tell. We always caution everybody on that.
Yeah, I like to, obviously nothing I say is financial advice. I'm a cartoon character on Twitter, but anytime people ask me about that kind of stuff, I'm like, listen, you got to do your own research. To me, it's like, I don't have an edge there, right? Like, I do feel, I don't want to say it's gambling, but like, to me in trading, at least I feel like my system has given me an edge over the market, where yes, it's like gambling, but I have a strategy, I have risk management rules where I feel like I have an advantage. When it comes to this DeFi stuff and a lot of these altcoins and stuff, where I'm not, just doing what I do best, which is looking at the charts, it's a little bit of a roll of the dice. Has it worked for me in the past? Absolutely. And I think that's why people coming back, right? You find that one farm that you're like, holy shit, for an entire week straight, I was getting 1,000% APY and I didn't get rugged. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to go into this next one. And then that one rugs you. And so that's the danger with altcoins too, right? I feel like it's that gambler syndrome. People win big once on an altcoin, and now they're hooked, right? Whether it's with that altcoin or with the next altcoin that they're in, and they become they have like cognitive dissonance to the market. And they're like, okay, well, this altcoin did it 50x and I made all this money. And then they're kind of just chasing that dragon eternally. And that's how you get these super strong communities and the Link Marines and the XRP bag holders, where it's like, yes, like your token did really well. But if you look at Link underperformed Bitcoin for most of this bull run. It did really well in the bear market, but Link BTC for a large part of this bull run was in a downtrend. But if you say that on Twitter, you get absolutely the Marines, they come in droves. I had like one argument with the Marines and I was like drowned out by like the attacks. And I was like, listen, I understand though, because I've been there, right? Like, it's just, you lose your objectivity when you have kind of a financial interest or something, or you just have this emotional attachment. So I tell everyone, you gotta be like a robot in this game. Like Link might be the future Oracle that everyone uses. You know, this might be the future of currency, whatever. At the end of the day, I'm here to make money. And I believe in crypto. I believe in blockchain. I think the technology is amazing. I do think it will revolutionize things, but I'm here to make money. I don't really want to hold things through drawdown if I don't have to. I can always buy back lower or buy back higher if it turns out it's going to be bullish.
Yeah, exactly. If you're trading, it's going to be, you can't trade you can't be emotional when you're trading with stocks or anything. And that's the one thing that mixes with crypto a lot in these altcoins, especially. People go die hard for these cryptos. And they, like, you say one thing, like, say, I'm not going to name one because I don't want them to come attack us.
Say the Link Marines, bro.
Yeah, you just say one name and say, hey, they didn't do very well, I'm moving on, or something. You know, maybe they had a down, this one's down. You will just get attacked, called like you're doing FUD, you're doing this and that. And I'm like, I'm just saying what it's doing. I'm not going to hold my $10,000 and let it go down into like $1,000 just because you guys like it. But yeah, I mean, it's just such a Well, back on that, like, what is the biggest difference between Forex and crypto for your trading style? I mean, speaking of the emotions and everything like that, what's the biggest difference to you?
I think Forex, the biggest difference is the ability to time volatility generally, whether it's, you know, you're trading the Asian session, the New York session, the London session. I know when I need to pay attention. So I was very schedule oriented when I traded Forex, right? I knew, okay, I live on the West Coast, so I don't really like waking up early and trading New York. So I could trade London, which would start around 10 o'clock at night. I'd get on my computer. I'd go through my watch list. I would mark up my levels. I would set up my alerts. And then at midnight, that would be London open. I would wait for the first 15, 20 minutes to kind of unfold, see if the move that I wanted to happen would happen on any of the pairs that I watch. And if there's a trade, I'd take it. And if there wasn't, I went to bed. Whereas crypto, it's just, there's no reprieve, especially in the bull run. I mean, the last 2 months has been really nice because we haven't done that much. Like, you might look on Twitter and people are like, oh, we're going all-time high. Oh, we're going to 10K. We've been between 30 and 40K for 2 months now. We've barely moved. So it's been kind of nice to not have to stare at the charts so much, but that's something that I miss about Forex, and I think is a huge advantage, like, especially if you're a professional trader. Like, being able to have a schedule is huge. Like, you ask anyone who trades crypto full time, like, during the bull run, your sleeping pattern is completely whack. Your stress levels are extremely high. There's days where you're on the screen all day and you take 0 trades. There's days where you're on the screen all day and you like can't even take enough trades because everything is moving. So I definitely miss the kind of just ability to be organized and have kind of like a trading plan for the day. And it's no different than stocks either, right? You wake up, you go through your watch list, you check whatever websites you're going to go on for your news and stuff. And then, you know, at 1 p.m. or 4 p.m. in New York, you're like, okay, I'm done. Like, now the rest of my day, it's like, you know, like, you go out for dinner with friends and you're a crypto trader, like, you're glued to your phone. Every 2 seconds you're checking, like, oh God, am I poor? Am I rich? And so I definitely think that's something that people in crypto should try and learn to experience, or at least try and implement, right? Try and have rules and be like, here's when I'm going to pay attention. But the problem is that the FOMO in crypto is so high. You always feel like you're missing out.
That's true. When I first started, I was glued to my phone. I couldn't put it down. I get yelled at my wife, my friends, everything. And then I finally had to, say like, okay, I'm done.
So I want to turn to a chat question real quick. Are you going to box in Dubai?
I'm going to Dubai. I'm not going to box. I grew up with 4 brothers. I've been punched in the head plenty of times. I see no reason to do it for free. But I will be part of the team organizing and announcing the fighters. So be nice to me and I'll give you a cool name or something. But yeah, no, I'm not going to go fight. A lot of the guys who are fighting are friends of mine and stuff, but I don't really match up, with any of them size-wise either. I think I'm a little bit bigger than most of them. But I think it's going to be a super fun event. So I hope to see some of you there, assuming the world doesn't shut down again.
True.
So, Mayne, your avatar on Twitter is a fat-necked crypto punk.
Yes.
Are you invested in any NFTs, and have you seen good returns on anything that you've invested in if you have?
So that is not a real NFT. I've had a few people ask me, someone just made that for me and sent it to me. Before I had this like kind of robotic bird. I'm in Canada, I'm Canadian. So when I made my Twitter account, I typed in robot goose on Google Images, and it was like one of the first results. But everyone would tell me it looked like a metallic dildo. So I was like, okay, maybe I should change it up, because no one seems to understand that this is like a robot goose. So someone made that for me. Yes, I've bought several NFTs. I don't know if I've made any money. Like maybe I could sell them. Like I've bought some of the apes. I don't own any punks, but I own like the bored apes. And then there's this other ape one that I bought. I own some yats. I don't even know if those are NFTs, but I bought a bunch of yats. And I have some Top Shot stuff, and I have some So Rare, which is like the soccer equivalent of Top Shot. I think it's fun. Like to me, the Top Shot stuff, especially, and the So Rare stuff, it's like when I was a kid getting baseball cards and stuff, you know, like that is the novelty for me. But the problem is when I was a kid, I played with those baseball cards and I traded them with my friends and they got ratty. And then if I would have kept them till now in mint condition, some of them might have actually been worth some money. So hopefully it's same with like Pokemon cards. Like I had all these Pokemon cards back in the day, and I saw Logan Paul going on about the Pokemon cards. I was like, holy smokes, like I have a first edition Charizard somewhere. And then I like reached out to my mom. She's like, oh no, I gave that to Goodwill. I'm like, Goodwill? That's like $20,000. What are you talking about? So hopefully with this, it's like, because it's online, you know, it will, because that's one of the differences I see, right? Is yes, it's a collectible, but part of the value in that Pokemon card is that it's 20 years old and it's still in amazing condition. You don't have that aspect of the collectability when it's a digital thing. And I just also don't know about the liquidity. I don't know enough about it to be like, okay, if I want to sell my LeBron James Top Shot moment, like, will someone actually buy it? Like I can go on the website and it will tell me what it's sold for, but does that mean someone is actually going to pay? Like if I want to sell all my stuff, does that liquidity exist? I don't know. So I would probably say I haven't made money, if I'm being honest, but I've had a lot of fun buying stuff.
Yeah, those apes are
There's
doing
definitely
well.
a lot of hype around Bored Ape Yacht Club right now. I mean, the price floor is up to almost 10 ETH, and just like a week ago, it was like maybe 4 ETH.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, but then like, do I sell it? Like, I have a buddy who had a punk and like the floor kept going up and then kind of started declining. So he sold. He's like, okay, I think that was the top. And now punks are like right back up again. So it's like one of those things. It's like, okay, do I hold this for how long? The thing I like about the punk specifically, and I think I'd like to own one day, is they were like the original, you know, kind of NFT. And I think there's something for that. There's a limited amount. This was like, even though they're so silly looking, like if you try and explain someone that you spent $30,000 on this like 8-bit thing, like that's going to be a tough sell, but it is kind of cool.
It's almost ironic, right? Because NFTs can be used for so many things in the future. Like eventually we might tokenize insurance, like car deeds, land, like everything with NFTs. And then we see the first example of NFTs being these CryptoPunks.
Well, it's the same with DeFi that we were talking about, right? Like this is just kind of our first iteration. I do not think that the art collectible part of NFTs is going to be the best iteration of NFTs. I completely agree with you. Like the business applications that are going to come from it, concert tickets, anything that requires any sort of certificate of authenticity, land, you know, within companies, you're going to be able to NFT, you know, certain aspects of organizations. Imagine you go to a concert, each ticket is an NFT. You can then airdrop, you know, stuff to people who attended that concert only. Maybe it's a sweet video or whatever it is, some merch. So I definitely think there's going to be tons of really cool applications that people with way bigger brains than me will come up with. I do think some of the collectible stuff is a little bit of a fad, but hey, I mean, you know, I absolutely could be wrong. Like the Top Shot stuff, I love basketball. So I like bought a bunch of Top Shot stuff. But like at the same time, I'm like, okay, but like this dunk, like I can look it up on YouTube. Like, so who really cares that I have this like video clip? Like I can look it up on YouTube. So there's still part of me that doesn't fully get it, but I've got some buddies who are like completely bought into being like, yo, the future of the world is going to be all NFT based. And like, you know, we're going to wear VR glasses and you're going to look at people and they're going to have art that they've bought in the digital world that you're going to be able to see on them, kind of like some episode of Black Mirror. Who knows?
Yeah, so these NFTs are just smart contracts on the Ethereum blockchain, and so is DeFi. DeFi is powered by these smart contracts, and with so much going on Ethereum and so little going on Bitcoin other than digital gold, do you foresee Ethereum flipping Bitcoin, and if so, when?
So I think the flipping conversation is always interesting because it usually ends up being around the top for the market. And that happened again this most recent time when Ethereum kind of went on that run from 2,000 to 4,000. The flipping chat started coming up again. I don't think in terms of like a dollar amount, we're going to see that flipping happen. From a market capitalization amount, I think absolutely it could happen. I mean, what you're seeing is Bitcoin dominance year over year is slowly declining just because there's more coins in the ecosystem. There's more strong projects that are eating away at that market cap. So do I think the flipping in terms of that could happen? Absolutely. I mean, I think you're already seeing it in a sense that during alt season, you want to be charting your coins against Ethereum, not Bitcoin, right? Like, yeah, you want to chart your altcoins against Bitcoin, early on and when Bitcoin is really strong. But when it's alt season, Ethereum's usually going crazy. And if you want to be in an altcoin, you got to make sure it's not outperforming Bitcoin. You want to make sure it's outperforming Ethereum. So I think Ethereum's role will continue to grow. Like you said, everything is built on it. Bitcoin is kind of, antiquated technology at this point. But I do think there will always be that, kind of, it is the standard. It's the first one. There's that scarcity built into it where people are always going to want it. Michael Saylor said there is no second best. So who knows? But I'm like a huge Ethereum bull. Like I definitely will be holding more Ethereum than Bitcoin in the next bull run and continue to do so because I think there's more upside. And, if everything's being built on it, that underlying network that's being built on naturally will increase in value as well.
There you go. Hey, I want to throw it to the audience out there. If you guys have any questions for Mayne, drop them in the comments now. And while you're down there, make sure to smash the like button. So continuing on the Ethereum train, are you excited for EIP 1559? Are you accumulating beforehand? And what do you think of Ethereum becoming a deflationary currency?
So I think it's good for Ethereum as a whole. I am excited for it. I mean, it's about damn time. If you ask me that this thing finally gets going in terms of like from a trading perspective, is it going to be a buy the news, sell the news type of event? I wouldn't be surprised if this is something that the effects of it from like a bullish perspective aren't seen for a few months down the line. Like, I don't think it's going to drop. What's the date? Like August 4th?
August 4th, yeah. I think.
Like I don't expect Ethereum to all of a sudden just jump 20% like after this happens. I think there are going to be people that are going to be trying to play that game where it's like, oh, like if to me the safer bet from like a trader's perspective is, bet on the move contracts, right? Like there's probably going to be some volatility around that date. That way you don't have to know if it's up or down. It just needs to move for you to make money. But yeah, I'm not buying Ethereum personally. I think the Ethereum chart like looks really bad. Like there's just no two ways about it for me. Like if you look at the chart on any sort of high time frame, I think what messed up a lot of people in this last bull run is the Bitcoin top didn't look like previous tops where we usually have that kind of like needle top, big drop, and then just kind of a slow descent into the abyss. Whereas this was like a very standard distribution schematic. We had 3 drives, right, with lowering momentum, big bearish divergence, and then it finally broke down. Ethereum looks much more like your kind of classic top, where we had the huge run up. We basically had a 1-month period where price doubled in like May to June, if I'm getting my dates right, or April to May. Effectively, we went from like 2,000 to $4,300. And then a huge correction. So like just looking at Ethereum from like a TA perspective, like to me, the magnet is like $1,000. Like I feel like it wants to break this floor that it's on right now. Is this, kind of bullish fundamentals enough to, change what might happen? Maybe. But how I trade is I'm just going to wait for the daily chart to show me a reason to get bullish. And I know that's really hard for a lot of people to be patient because there's only one daily candle a day. But I just wait, right? If we can put in some sort of bullish market structure, make a higher high on the daily, then absolutely I'll look to buy the dip. But we haven't seen that happen since May. So I'm going to just be patient, unfortunately.
There you go. So, man, are you trading ICP at all? Do you have any thoughts on the project?
This is Internet Computer Protocol.
Yes, it is.
I think the name is dumb. It's like, that sounds like when I'm like trying to like explain something that sounds like a scam. Like I think of that. I'm like, no, it's Internet Computer Protocol. I mean, if you look at the chart, that looks like a coin that's going to have a lot of bag holders for a very long time, which is unfortunate. If you bought that thing at all in the last couple of months, it looks like, you know, you might have gotten kind of screwed. I don't know anything about what the coin does, or what it plans to do, who's behind it, or anything like that. But that is a chart that looks like it is not going to go back to all-time high, maybe ever. So hopefully, the problem is with a lot of coins that just look like this, like, you know, slow decline into death. Like a lot of people don't understand the math behind altcoins. Like, yes, something can only go down 100%, right, to zero. But if you buy something at $10 and you hold it to $1, it's down 90%. And if you buy it again at $1, it can go down to 10 cents and you've lost another 90%. And now you need to do like a 9x to get back to break even. So a lot of these coins, like what I would suggest to people, and I know it's hard, is you do not want to bag hold these things for what could be months to years. It's going to wreck you financially, it's going to wreck you emotionally, and it's going to negatively affect your decision-making ability and future trades, because you're going to be thinking about that bag you're holding or whatever. So it's sometimes best to cut your losses before they become too big and realize that you can reallocate that capital elsewhere to make some more money, or you can always buy back. Like if ICP is the future and you end up being right, if you bought it at $260, like it's at 30 right now. It needs to go crazy just for you to get back to break even. You got to do almost like an 8 or 9x just to get back to break even. Why not cut your losses, wait until the market turns around, maybe deploy that capital elsewhere where it might be more efficient, and you can always buy back once the market is telling you. One thing that will never lie, regardless of fundamentals or anything, is the chart. The chart, go look at any altcoin, go look at Bitcoin. When the bottom forms, market structure becomes bullish. You see higher highs and higher lows, and we're just not seeing that anywhere. So you're really just guessing at this point, trying to either buy down here or you're just hoping that things turn around, and that's not really a strategy, right?
So speaking of altcoins, I saw that you're starting an Altcoin series on your YouTube channel. Can you tell us what that's going to be about?
Absolutely. So the purpose of the Altcoin series is to kind of go over what I'm just talking about the last couple of minutes here. I think someone who's like myself, who's been through a few market cycles now, I know the pain of holding stuff down 90%, just hoping that it will turn around. And then when it does turn around, you realize that, oh my God, it's got to do a 9x for me to even get out at break even. And I'm not the only bag holder here. So every time it pumps, there's a ton of people selling just to get out. And you don't want to do that. I held altcoins from the 2013 top all the way through the bear market. A lot of these altcoins never came back. If you want to do a really interesting thought experiment, go on CoinMarketCap and go look at the CoinMarketCap top 50 coins in 2013. Then look at them again in 2017, and then look at them again in 2020. You're going to find about 3 or 4 coins that stuck around through that entire time. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and like Ripple. A lot of these coins that are the hot coin of 2013, the hot coin of 2017, they're not going to be around in the next market cycle. And the last thing you want to do is just be playing the hope game, because that's what you're doing. That like, oh, don't worry, my coin is going to survive. So I just kind of want to give some people some insights really of what I've learned over the years trading altcoins, because yes, you can make some amazing returns, but you can also completely ruin yourself if you're not careful, because there's that emotional attachment to it. I don't think we're in the era anymore where people get rich holding Bitcoin. It's too expensive, right? And so people have this thing called unit bias, right? Where they see an altcoin and it's 50 cents and they're like, okay, well, it only has to go to $5 for me to 10x, right? Where Bitcoin's 30K, it's got to go to 300K. It seems way more likely that this 50-cent thing goes to $5 than Bitcoin goes to 300K. And while that kind of makes sense from like, you know, in your head, you're like, oh, that sounds about right. That doesn't mean it's a good, just because it's cheap, it does not mean it's good. And so people get caught in this trap where they buy altcoins because they seem like a cheaper alternative to Bitcoin or Ethereum. And then they get lucky sometimes, but then they never end up taking profit. So the whole point of the series is just going to be like, here's some common, misconceptions people have about alts, and just some really basic strategy stuff. How to use Bitcoin dominance. What is cross-market analysis? Comparing your altcoin to Bitcoin, comparing it to ETH. And then, going over people's requests. I do a live stream every Sunday. And the whole focus is Ethereum and Bitcoin, but the entire chat is like, hey, this is my altcoin. Please tell me like if we're dead or not. So I wanted to kind of make a new dedicated video where it's like, hey, I will chart up your altcoin. This is not going to be about fundamentals by any means. It's going to be purely a technical look. And for some people, they're not going to like that because the technical might look really bad on a lot of these altcoins right now, but just give people the ability to make their own decisions. Like a lot of people who are new to the space, they come on Twitter. They're like, oh, this guy's got a lot of followers. I'm just going to buy what he says. That's what I did. When I first joined Twitter, anyone who had back in 2013, 10K followers was like 100K now. And so anyone who had like 10K followers, if they tweeted out an altcoin, I just bought it. Like I own Barbecue Coin, File Coin, like coins that don't exist anymore. They don't like Barbecue Coin, really. Like, I mean, then again, Dogecoin ended up surviving. So who knows? Maybe Barbecue Coin could have survived too. But I was just buying stuff because people told me to buy it. I had no rhyme or reason why. And so the goal of this series is kind of be like, hey, if you want to get an altcoin, sure, here's some tips so you can kind of do it at least a little bit systematically and not, just buying because someone told you so or because someone promised you that this one's going to the moon.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I have your YouTube linked in the description below for all those who want to check it out.
Yeah, cool.
That goes back to our emotional talk where, you can't really trade on emotions. And we might even get hate for this, but, that goes back to the AMC GME thing. Like I saw people make millions of dollars and then literally lost it all. And you could have just taken it. Like you're doing it on emotions. Same with altcoins. You're holding these things because yes, you believe in the project. Yes, you want it to, but you're holding on to just hope. It's just, it's all, it's all luck if it's actually going to play out, even though everyone's skilled, but it's all just, there's no promises. There's nothing there. What doesn't lie is the numbers, like you said. Yeah. Speaking of all that, like, what do you think the most hyped altcoin is right now out of all of them?
Most overhyped.
Top three, yeah. Most overhyped, maybe top three.
Probably that Axis coin, AXS, seems to be the one that everyone on my Twitter is talking about. The problem right now is the market as a whole is kind of in the shitter. Like Bitcoin looks like it wants to break below 30K today. The macro environment is looking very, very dicey, right? We have potential, whatever wave of COVID this is going to be with the Delta variant. We have places starting to shut down again. Australia just went back on a lockdown. The Olympics is now in question because there's been a COVID outbreak in Japan. And the stock market as a whole looks ready to sell off. And it's like, okay, well, are they just going to keep pumping money in this thing? Or are we going to see maybe a COVID 2.0 style correction? What's that going to mean for crypto? Not great. The US dollar is starting to perk up and look strong again, which also is not great for crypto. So most altcoins are going down. And then what we're getting is we'll get these outliers that pump. You have Sand, you have AXS. I think AXS is like an NFT gaming type of play. But the chances of you finding that needle in the haystack right now, because that's what you're playing. I like to play altcoins when everything is going up, right? The rising tide raises all ships. Right now, you're kind of just hoping, you're throwing darts and you're hoping the one that you get is the one that is going to pump, whereas most altcoins are getting absolutely crushed. Rune, which was one of the strongest altcoins in the bull run, is now one of the biggest losers in the last couple of months, right? They had that exploit happen and price dropped 25%. So to me, just the risk in altcoins right now on the upside is just not there. I think you're playing a very dangerous game. I mean, if you're in there and you're systematically trading, you have a stop loss, you have to take profit, by all means. But if you're hoping to just get lucky and find the next coin that's going to 5x while the entire market is crashing, I don't know. That's a dangerous game. I would have loved to have been in AXS, but coins like that, I'm more interested in trying to short it because I'm like, okay, this is unsustainable. The whole market is going down. Everyone is tweeting about this thing. It's going to set up for a great short soon. And it's already down from 30 to 16. So it's almost down 50% already, right? So yeah, that's the one I'm hearing the most about right now. AXS and Sand was another one, which I think is just kind of like it's kind of riding the tailwind of AXS a little bit. I don't know if it was as fundamentally strong.
Yeah, I definitely saw people buying the Sandbox just because Axie Infinity went up. I mean, it's a similar game, but at the end of the day, like, it's going to follow Bitcoin and Ethereum. I mean, that's much more likely than it following another NFT game. And I think the reason Axie's gone up so much is just because they've had a ton of user adoption in the past month or so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk about Ethereum killers. There are a lot of so-called quote-unquote Ethereum killers on the market today that sacrifice decentralization and security in exchange for lower transaction costs and more transactions per second. Mayne, do you think that decentralization is really important to the retail investor, or will we start to see them kind of shift away? I mean, we saw the move to the Binance Smart Chain this year a lot. Do you think this trend will continue, or do you think that the retail investor will eventually realize the value of decentralization?
That's a good question. I mean, I think it's difficult to say. Like, for me, as someone who's kind of been in the space a long time, I definitely value, decentralization and not having, these centralized powers that be, whether it be Binance or, Alameda at FTX, like having this much control and power. I mean, one of the most annoying things as a trader, is that the exchange can shut down, at peak kind of critical volatility times. But that being said, the user experience is so much better on these centralized entities, these centralized exchanges. Like, it's not even close. Like, I've Uniswapped a bit and Pancake swapped a bit. Like, I know I'm getting screwed without even knowing how badly I'm getting screwed, like trying to trade on some of these, decentralized exchanges, these DEXs, because there's no proper order placement forms, right? You don't actually see the order book. You don't know what actually kind of fills you're getting. You can't set stop losses, take profits. I know there are third-party ancillary softwares and kind of overlays that are trying to solve some of these issues. But the DEX has got a long way to go to kind of compete. I think right now what you're seeing on DEXs is you're going to see a lot more of kind of the experimental new currencies, stuff like that, where there could be crazy upside and stuff like that. And especially for someone who maybe doesn't have as much money, you can go on there and you can kind of, I call it the Uniswap casino, right? You can go in there and you can spin the wheel a few times and you might get lucky. Whereas, someone like myself, who's like more of a day trader, like I need a lot of the tools that are only offered on the centralized exchanges for now. And I do hope that changes, but I can't move any sort of significant size on Uniswap, right? Like you just can't do it. And then anytime you can, that coin usually gets added to the centralized exchange anyways, because it's picked up enough volume. Back in 2013, coins got added. Like, that was the game. Like, you would go on MintPal and they would you'd get a rumor that like a coin is getting added there. So you'd go buy it on like BitREX and then it would get added to MintPal and it would pump and you would like send the coins over to MintPal and sell it. Like, that was part of the game. And now I see that's kind of what's happening on Uniswap. Anyone can launch a coin. So obviously I think decentralization is a key tenet of what we do here in crypto. And so I do think there's value in it. And I would like to see some more sophistication for me as a trader in some of these DEXs so I could feel more comfortable trading on them. Any sort of Uniswap play I've played with, I'm like, maybe 5 or 10 grand. Like, there's no way I'm putting any sort of serious amount of money on these exchanges. Yeah. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are about that, but just the technology and the user interface and the quality of the experience is not there enough. I mean, I got buddies who are doing $1 million, they've got $1 million on a MetaMask on Pancake Swap. And to me, I think that's nuts, but hey, more power to you.
I know Polkadot's making an exchange that has this with stop losses and full order books, because you can go like Bog Finance, like you said, or PooCoinAb for the Binance Smart Chain. And there's other ones for Ethereum, but I know Polkadot is making their own the Polkadex, and it will actually have full order books, full charting, full stop loss, and you can futures and all that stuff. But it's a decentralized exchange. It's not actually a centralized exchange. I think that's going to be the first one to actually have the full suite of tools as you'd see on like KuCoin or Coinbase.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool that you brought that up. It's not out yet, and who knows if it's actually going to work out. I mean, you're right. I mean, no one knows yet, but hopefully they will solve that issue. I don't know.
Like, you want the power, kind of in the hands of the users at the end of the day. And, I don't like how much, sway, especially during the bull run, like FTX and Binance could have over, coins in the market. I mean, listen, CZ was pumping BNB himself, and it was like so blatantly obvious. Like, and that's also kind of what's kind of crazy about, like, like what Michael Saylor's doing is he's becoming kind of this like figurehead for Bitcoin. And he's like, oh, I'm going to be leading up the Bitcoin mining council, and we're going to meet and make decisions about the future of Bitcoin mining. I was like, don't we not want that? Like, I don't know if I want that, but I mean, who knows? Can't stop him. I hope he's right, because if he's wrong, oh my God.
Could be in for some trouble. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. Mayne, thank you so much for stopping by. I had a great time, and I think the chat loved it as well. I have your Twitter and your YouTube in the description below, but if there's anything else you want to let the audience know or shout out, now's the time. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me. This was super fun. I appreciate the time. Find me on Twitter, Trader Mayne. Find me on YouTube, Trader Mayne as well. I do a live stream every Sunday going into the weekly close. We cover Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I will be announcing my schedule for the altcoin streams this week. So stay tuned for that.
Hell yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Nice to meet you guys. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a good one.
See you later.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. We will be back at 4 o'clock with Tim Draper himself. I don't know, Rohan, maybe is there a show at 3 o'clock? At the Close is coming up right now, so stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. It will redirect you automatically. And then we will be back at 4 o'clock with Tim Draper, the billionaire venture capitalist legend. You do not want to miss it. Okay, so that is all we have time for today. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you at 4.